The future of government jobs is uncertain. Telework is under intense political pressure. Will work from home jobs disappear for federal employees? And what does that mean for job seekers? The ability to telework has been a game changer for recruitment, retention, and work-life balance. There's this misconception out there that it just started during the pandemic, since 2020. But the reality is the government has been encouraging telework for over 20 years. Not only did this allow federal employees to telework, check this out. It specifically says telework would be done to the maximum extent possible without diminishing the employee's performance. This would be 25% of the workforce for the first year, and then another 25% the following year. This was never intended for the entire federal workforce because in some jobs, it's impossible to work from home. All the law enforcement jobs, you want to be a security guard, you want to do some sort of trade activity, plumbing, electricity, welding, you cannot do that from home. But if you look at the latest report from OPM, you would see that less than half of the federal government can actually telework. This idea that all federal government employees are not showing up to work, that's not true. That's a false narrative that a lot of politicians have been saying recently. And telework isn't just about convenience. It helps agencies attract and keep top talent. The IRS, for example, they use telework to expand their talent pool. They were able to hire over 5,000 new customer service representatives. Jobs that are telework eligible, they attract 3 times as many candidates to that position, which means from a hiring manager perspective, you're able to select higher qualified individuals to fill that role. There's a specific filter on usajobs.gov that allows you to search for telework eligible jobs. Today, there are over 8,000 of these type of jobs. In the context of federal government jobs, telework means that you're able to work from home part of the time. This could be once a week or maybe even once a pay period, so once every 2 weeks, or it could mean 4 times a week. Depending on your agency, depending on your supervisor, that will dictate if you're able to telework and how often you'll be able to telework. There are certain people that have top secret clearances that interact with classified documents every single day. Well, they can't telework because you cannot do that type of work from your living room couch. It's impossible. Another completely different category would be remote work. And that work is typically done anywhere in the country. Whether you want to do it in Seattle, Washington, or Portland, Maine, doesn't matter. You pick the location. Now, for those jobs, that only makes up 10% of the entire federal government. So a little bit over 200,000 people are able to work 100% remote in the government. We can see here at the Citizen and Immigration Services, there's data from 2019 to 2023. It shows that telework eligible jobs, they consistently outperform in attracting candidates. And get this, employees who telework frequently, they actually scored higher on customer responsiveness than the in-office employees. But not everyone's on board. The incoming Trump administration, they created something called DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. They want to target fraud, waste, and abuse. One of the leaders of this new entity is more like a commission than a department, but one of the leaders is Vivek. Vivek has been on camera during interviews talking about reducing the total size of the federal workforce. One of the ways, he says, is to make people come back into the office. And by doing that, individuals would self-select and they would quit. They would leave the federal government. He says this as if to paint a picture that the majority of federal employees are sitting at home, which I largely disagree with. Vivek was also doing a thought experiment recently. And one of the ways to dramatically reduce the size of the federal workforce, he thought, was to take a federal employee, look at their social security number. If the last digit was odd, they would be terminated for no other reason than their last digit of the social security number was odd. And that way he could reduce the entire size of the government by 50%. And if you are of the mentality that the government is evil, well, this might sound like a good idea to you. But when it comes to telework, critics argue that slashing telework will harm recruitment and retention. If you are anti-government, it's kind of hard to believe that the government does anything of value. But if you look at providing veterans with health care, making sure they get benefits, looking at Social Security payments, SSI, disability, looking at FDIC, protected bank balances, highway safety. There's a lot of areas that could be impacted. And these federal agencies, if you reduce the benefits, they're not going to attract high quality individuals. For example, the Farm Service Agency, or the FSA, they reported candidates withdrew from jobs that required in-office attendance. And let's not forget that nearly half of the federal workforce, they're eligible to retire in the next 5 years. So the government needs to attract younger people. One of the demographics that end up quitting the most from government jobs is under 30. People who are under 30 years old. They're more likely to quit and jump back into the private sector. So how are you going to attract young people that are considered high level of talent? Quality candidates that are applying. How can you attract them? And then how can you retain them? Because if you shift focus and say, well, I'm not interested in high level, I'll just take mediocre, or I'm actually looking for low level. What do you get with that? Well, higher training costs, increased supervision, decreased productivity, and lower morale across the team. You shouldn't want that for a civil service employee. You should want someone who's intelligent, who's motivated, who's there for the right reasons, committed to the mission. That type of person, not only are they attracted to competitive salaries, they're also attracted to benefits that can be found in the private sector. This includes telework and remote work. So what does this mean for job seekers? If you're eyeing a federal government job, you need to keep your attention on the telework policies. This could potentially be changing in the first half of 2025. Probably February, March 2025, there could be new guidance pushed out when it comes to telework, when it comes to remote work. Now, I've been tracking telework and remote work, but specifically remote work over the last few years. I've been checking what type of demand has there been in the federal government. So during the pandemic time, especially 2021, it wasn't unusual to see over 600 jobs open on any given day. That's changed within the last 18 months. Right now, what's typical, what's common is any given day, there's right around 300 positions that are open. And guess what? Everyone is applying to them, especially folks out in the rural area. So you'll see 1,000 plus, 5,000 people applying to one remote work job. Many federal agencies have shown just how effective it is, not just with recruitment, but also retention and when it comes to the job performance. My best advice for you, if you're looking for 100% remote work, there's two main things. So the first one is, what are your skills, right? So number one, look at the positions that have remote work. And if you go on USA Jobs right now, there's 40 jobs for engineering. Are you an engineer? That's the 0800 series. The next thing is 2210 and 1500. So those two encompass IT. Do you have a computer science degree? That's 1550. If you don't have a computer science degree, that's okay. Look at 2210. That's where the IT jobs are. If you combine 2210 with 1500, there's another open 40 jobs here today that you can apply for. That's 100% remote work. The next thing is focus on your resume. You cannot have a standard generic resume and try to compete for these type of positions. You need to focus on your achievements. What makes you different? In a room crowded with 1,000 people, why should anyone give you attention? What have you done? Do you have it on the top of your resume? Is it the first thing that sticks out right underneath your position? Does it mention a time that you were able to analyze information, find the gaps, change a process, and take the organization in a different direction to save time and to save money? Those are the type of achievements that need to be up towards the top. Personally, I've worked in an office, I've done telework, and I've done remote work. And the teams that I was privileged to be a part of, they got the job done no matter where they were at. They were focused on the task and they were able to get it done. So it really depends on the dynamic of the office and the agency and who's the leadership, what's the culture like. A lot of that's gonna depend on your experience. But I do believe there will be changes in 2025 and 2026. If you think about the Biden administration, there was heavy talks to get people back into the office with President Biden in office. They wanted federal employees to come downtown and start stimulating a lot of these economies. And for a lot of congressmen, that's what it's about. The American people want federal employees back down there using the dry cleaners, using the coffee shops, the restaurants, stimulating the economy. If you're in the process of accepting your new government job, a lot of agencies have been developing criteria before they let their people telework. So for some agencies, it's 3 months. I heard recently the Coast Guard was making this one person wait 12 months. They wanted him to be off of probation before he could telework at all. So after the tentative job offer, if you're dialoguing, if you're having conversations with your supervisor, I would bring that up and ask them, what is the policy for teleworking? So you can have a firm understanding. It doesn't catch you off guard. You're not surprised. And also, that's another point of consideration. If you have 2 or 3 job offers, which one will allow you to work from home? Maybe you should pick that one. If you are still looking for a federal government job, you should be aware of which federal agencies struggle with turnover. Who is actually terminating the most employees? If you're interested in that information, I want you to check this video out next. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.